Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to present to you the Arabian Horse Association President, Cynthia Richardson, for the State of the Association Address. Thank you, Cynthia.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? I hope. Nope. Yes. Okay. Good morning, fellow officers, delegates, guests, lovers of the Arabian horse. We're pleased to be here in Tulsa. The Hyatt Regency stepped up. As you all know, we had a bit of an issue with the Marriott when they decided to completely reconfigure their hotel and upgrade everything, and informed us in February that we didn't have a home for our convention. So staff really scrambled around. We tried all kinds of variations, and the Hyatt here stepped up and said, we'd love to have you. So I hope you'll enjoy this beautiful hotel and be able to get around outside in downtown Tulsa. They've done a lot of renovations, so if you have a little bit of good weather and can get outside and walk around, it's kind of fun. There's lots of murals and things like that to be seen. It's been a very, very busy year for Team AHA. We've accomplished a great deal, and I'm very proud of that on behalf of the volunteers, our staff, that get together and work together to move the association forward. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing and the fact of collaboration, because this is our second year of Connect, Collaborate, and Create. So I want to kind of lead you through a few things that we've done, hopefully on your behalf and on behalf of our wonderful horse. As you know, we started in 2013 and created a strategic plan for 5 years. But it became quite evident very quickly that many of the things that we thought we needed to do and to fix and to go forward with needed a better computer system. And that's always a daunting task. It's one of those tasks that had been left aside a bit through AHA, truly from lack of money in many circumstances, and in some cases lack of planning. So we started down there through that path and to try to figure out what to do and how to go forward and how we would be able to increase service to our members and the people who do business with us on a general basis. So thanks to Nancy and Bob and my husband Bill, we completed what we called process mapping. And process mapping in general terms just means that you go through a business and you take everything that they do, one transaction at a time, and you start from the very first time something is, whether it's a call from a customer or it's a piece of paper that comes into the office, and you follow it completely all the way through to the end to see how it works. And you look then, you take that and assess it and see where it is that you can make improvements, whether it's a change in how it is handled or it's a change in the process itself. It brings to mind, you see many times where something's been duplicated, or you say, you kind of scratch your head and go, well, why are they doing that? Well, they've done it that way for 20 years, so they keep doing it that way for 20 years. So we went through that entire process and then went through all of the assessment of that and then came forward with that to create a business plan and how to go forward with AHA. So that's all completed, and now we're looking for maximum efficiency. So we came up with an AHA business plan. This leads us to what we call AHA Future State, and you'll hear a lot about that during this convention. The board approved for us to go through with this on March, and AHA Future State, again in simple terms, is a way to lead us to a more computerized system. And that means for you as the members who want to do business with us, it also means for the staff and to raise their level of efficiency. So this is a huge project when you stop and think that some of our computer systems in the office were as much as 16 years old. So if you kind of imagine to yourselves what it would be to have that cell phone from 16 years old that was a brick that we carried around, and only 6 people owned one because they were the only ones that were strong enough to carry it around. But, technology has certainly surpassed AHA and made it so that much of what we were doing was very antiquated. And people were like, well, why, Cynthia, you're a computer person. Why can't you just get this fixed? Well, if you look at all the things that AHA does and how it interacts with each other, you can't just start picking a piece and fix that piece, because that's what happened in the past. It's like, well, we needed a such and such or so-and-so, so we went out and we bought a program that did that. But then, unfortunately, you have to have a computer science person, a techie, to be able to do something with that program. Well, what we identified in process mapping is that we had numerous software packages, which means you had to have people who could support them. And then as time went along and they were no longer supported, period, then you really depended on those people. And then the people come and go, or they go, I don't really want to write anything in ASP anymore, or I don't want to write anything in Perl anymore. Most of you have never heard of those. In fact, I hadn't until I went to work for HA. So, as you can imagine, it was a bit of a mess and a bit of a thing. So I'm proud to say that my husband, bless his heart, stepped up and said, okay, I will be the project manager for AHA Future State as a volunteer. And I will work, this is Bill speaking, I will work very closely with staff and we'll do this as an overall. So right now, AHA Future State reports directly to the EC, and then we approve it going forward. So we also then needed, obviously we didn't need one individual, we needed a number of people, so we created a committee called Hydra for the many-headed monster that little things keep popping up, and as you can imagine, about the time you think you get this fixed, then somebody else goes, whoops, I've got this problem over here. So Hydra is alive and well, and those consist of my husband, Bill, which I mentioned, and then Gerald McDonald, Bruce Johnson, Terry Andreessen, and Bill Lawless. And if you don't know Bill personally, he's our Director of Business Technology. So that group has worked together very, very closely. They have an overall plan. They worked on timelines. They came into the office the first week, I believe, of October and worked on that. We're able to set out a plan for 18 months of how they're going to address this. They've been interactive with the BTAC, which is the Business Technology Advisory Committee. They worked on that. So many of our volunteers from AHA that are computer savvy have stepped up to give us their time to make sure that this is a plan. So last year when we came to convention, we were looking to turn on our website almost immediately after that. And as we went through this process mapping part, we looked and said there really wasn't any point in writing code essentially twice, because what we're trying to do is incorporate the business through the website so that you can do business 24/7. So we did not release the website because we wanted to be able to make it interactive. So what we did is we did some training for our staff. We brought the whole system internally into our own business so that we can control it through our very qualified staff that we have and also through our volunteers. So there's going to be what they call an Interaction Business Engine, which is an IBE, which you don't have to remember. There's no test. But what that means to all of you is that as everything comes in and starts being rewritten in modern code, they're going to use Java because Java is very well accepted. It's very much on the market. You can get Java programmers, lots of them here. So we are rewriting every section of what we do. And I hate to say, I think there was over 250 different transactions within the building that have to be rewritten. So today, you're going to, if you wish, you can go at 10:15. The AHA Future State breakout is in Promenade C upstairs, and they are going to give you a demonstration of the website and explain a little bit more of the techie way that this is being accomplished. But there's been a tremendous amount of work done. There's been a system set up. There's approvals codes that they have to go through and to move everything forward. So we never get in a situation where we have money going out the door and we're not sure what it's for or how it's going to be done. The promise that was made is while this is going on, that business would have to be done accordingly. I mean, it would be really great to just say, well, we'll close AHA for about 8 months and we could get this done. And I can imagine your reaction if you said, oh, well, too bad, we're not doing business for 8 months. So this is going to take 3.4 years. So what's going to happen when you see the website and its release is that you will see what we call the guest pages. And this is where KBG Check has stepped up. It's all of the beautiful pictures, the interaction, how things will be seen from guests coming in. So when you get to log on this goes live on January the 11th, you'll get to see all the pretty things and all of the things that a guest can get to. And there'll be a new login system by then, because one of the things we identified is that our system right now is not up to standards on being safe. And so we upgrade that. Well, in order to upgrade that, you go through a new logon process. So I know that'll be a few stutter steps for a couple of people, but we'll get you through it. And then as things get rewritten into the new language and put on, then you'll start seeing new different pages and new places to go. So when you get on and you see the pretty pictures and then all of a sudden you go to a screen and you get an old picture, don't panic yet. We didn't make a mistake. This is how it's actually planned out to work. The other thing we've done is that the financials, a lot of people talk about Oracle, And Oracle, if you talk about it in general terms, is something that you think that runs First Bank, for instance. We always thought we were oversized, that we really didn't need something that was that powerful. So we went from the higher level Oracle, quite honestly, down to what they call Oracle Standard. That all works. It was plenty. So for all those years that we had the upgrade, we didn't actually need it. So now we've downsized. And so part of everything that we're looking at through the computer systems is to be right-sized. So the other thing that we're doing is that we're going to purchase Multiview, which is a financial package. They've been in business about 13 years. They're built for companies that are our size and actually a bit larger, but they'll work very well for us. And so the BT committee is going to, the BT staff is going to change from working on website things. They're going to turn specifically to develop the financials and get us switched over to new financials from January to June. So I'll let Bill talk a little bit more if you're interested in that. I think it would be fun for you to go and see what the website's going to be. Last year you had a video that just sort of showed the slides, and this time it's actually live. All of that stuff works. Yay. A huge congratulations to our BT staff, because they have really stepped up. They went out, had training in OpenCMS, which is Open Content Management Systems. Again, you don't have to remember that, but they went out, got the training. They're able to do it now. So it's truly in-house and it's truly working. So it's been a huge collaboration with our staff going forward. Yay. So, one of the questions that was asked to me is, can we afford a new computer system? And the real question should be could we afford to do business the way we were doing business, which was antiquated? And the answer was no. So what the board has done is made a pledge that AHA Future State is our #1 initiative going forward. And obviously that depends on what we can do with financials. And so the budget and finance will have to take a look at this. We'll look at it, and then it's based that, we made a pledge that we need this much money for this particular year. If it turns out in the budget that we're not going to have that much money, then we'll just have to slow things down. The more money you have, the faster you can go in some cases. So over this period of time, not only did we not have enough staff to go really fast, but we don't have the money to do it all at once. And so, but the pledge still is that business goes on, so we'll just make it work as we go forward. And it's done in sections. It's planned that way, so we can slow it down if we have to, if budgetary constraints come to us. But we don't have to turn it off, I guess is my point. Once you start down this path, it has to keep going because we're moving all that stuff. And I think a good analogy is when the original software and hardware, some of it that is 18 years old, it was bought as a financial package, and it's kind of like a little Volkswagen, and people kept sticking stuff on because they didn't have another database. And so here's your little Volkswagen, and he's now got all this luggage hanging out the windows, and his tires have gone flat. So he really can't get anywhere. But inside of all of that was the finances. So we can't get the finances out until we had a plan to rewrite all the luggage that was hanging on. So know that that's going forward, and I think it's important that our board supports that 100%. So, as you know, I never follow my speech, so I'm looking to see where I am. There's a new nomination process this year that I think you will have noted in your packets, because we do have some people that are running for office this year. And I want to thank the nominating committee for stepping up to do that. What we were trying to do is to be able to give you something you could sit side by side and say, this person has this person has that. What we're looking for you is to elect people to serve as your officers who are business people who can take this association forward, understand financials, can be part of that situation. Yes, we need horse people, but we also need qualified people to run a business. So those new nomination forms were designed specifically for that, and I'd like to thank the nominating committee for coming up with that for us. One of the really fun things that happened for me this year was Central Park. When I became president, a number of people came to me and said, Cynthia, we want to have an international show, we want to do this, we want to do that, and I'm looking at what we have, and I'm going, okay, what do you consider that? And they said, well, a destination city is where you can fly from anywhere around the world, and you don't have to change planes. And I said, okay, so you can go to New York, you can go to Miami, you can go to Los Angeles, you can go to Dallas, you can go to San Francisco. So I said, what are you envisioning? And they said, oh, well, you should go to Central Park in New York. You could have go to Long Beach in Los Angeles, and you could put on this horse show. And I go, well, how would I put on a horse show? So, but I'm a good soldier, so I called the people at Central Park and I said, hi, I'm Cynthia Richardson from AHA, and we would like to talk to you about putting on a horse show. And when they picked themselves up off the floor laughing, they said, you do realize that we have a mayor that wants to get rid of the carriage horses in New York City in the Central Park, and that, no. So I'm also a good soldier, and I opened up a email blast that came out from USEF and said there was going to be live horses in Central Park on a Sunday afternoon on CBS or someplace. So I turned it on, and here, sure enough, was the Grand Prix jumping from Central Park. So I sent Glenn a text, and I said, okay, they did it. I want to do it, and you want to do it, and so let's do this. So we started talking and pulling in contacts and talking to people we know, and sure enough, the organizers of Central Park were open to having a breed come in because they're very active with USEF and they had their hunter jumpers in dressage, but they did not have a breed. So they said, we would like to have you, and it's in September, and everybody's going, you can't get that organized that fast. And we said, well, if we don't, AQHA is coming. So I was so tired of the quarter horses being in front of us and everything, and I thought if they got in, we would never get in. So we made the commitment to the organizers to have horses in Central Park. So that's how we got there. But I want to tell you a little bit, because I'm so proud of the people who came and supported this, a little bit of how this worked. The horses were actually stalled out in Gladstone, New Jersey, which is about an hour away through New York traffic. But the place there, it's the USET Training Center for the Olympics. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's these wonderful rolling hills. There's beautiful arenas. It's a great place to go and have a horse. So it's like, okay, that's great, but how do they get from Gladstone into the Central Park? Well, the other problem with Central Park is it's run by a conservancy, and if you've been to Central Park, it is the most populated park in the whole world. More people use Central Park than any other park in the whole world. And that's saying a lot if you've traveled very much, and the beautiful parks around the world. So they do not allow traffic to be shut down to anywhere interfere with the people in the park. And if you've been to Central Park, it was designed in the horse and buggy days, and so the roads are pretty narrow. They're not exactly straight. They just kind of meander through. So, okay, the horses then were loaded at 4 o'clock in the morning in Gladstone in the dark. They were put on vans because you couldn't bring your horses in on your own van. You had to have professional haulers because they had the right to come into Central Park. So they loaded them up at 4 and arrived a little after 5 in the dark and unloaded, and they unloaded within, I think, 16 minutes. And then they were stalled in brand new stalls. And meanwhile, the rink is turned over from, it had been a carnival during the summer, so it was turned over, and so this is Wednesday now that the horses were brought in, and so they had 3 days to completely change that rink into what some of you saw on the live feed. So we had 1 hour that afternoon to bring our horses across. It was a 13-minute walk across the asphalt on a single trackway because the other side had to be left open to the public. So our horses went one way on this 13-minute walk over to there, and were able to warm up and look at what was going on in the arena and then go back. So, okay, we start at night. This is all great. So we figure out it's one way, keep in mind, and it's starting towards evening. So it was pretty exciting. We had lots of what I would call technical assistance. So we had to get the horses over for the first class. And while the horses are in the first class, the second class has to come over because in order to get the first class out, I have to have the second class already in. So hats off to our Arabian horses because these are the performance horses. These were why these horses were chosen because normally you have a warm-up ring and then you go right in your ring and you're right in your class and you're yay. This was a situation where you could warm up, walk 13 minutes, mill around a little bit in this very area that we kind of just closed off with some ferns, and then perform. So people were just fall over that our horses could do this. And what maybe some of you don't understand, Arabians now are a very global breed, and in Europe and in the Middle East, they are not seen as doers. They are seen, some of them are endurance horses, some of them are race horses, but the pretty ones don't do anything. So for the world to be able to see these beautiful horses and going around and performing was, I mean, the text and the information, my phone went off all night long from everybody internationally saying they just couldn't believe that this is what Arabians could actually do. So on purpose, we created an all-amateur class for the Country English Pleasure. And so there was 4 ladies that rode. They were beautifully attired. The horses beautifully performed. I was standing next to Michael Stone, and he was one of the coordinators for the whole show. And he said to me, he said, Cynthia, he said, those women actually look like they're having a good time. So I laughed. And I said, they are, Michael. Those are their horses. They own them, and they're thrilled to be here. And this is an exciting time for them, and of course they're happy. He goes, well, you know, most of the time when I watch our hunter jumpers, they look like their mother just died. So Central Park, you know, was a huge success. Put it on your calendars. September 21st is our day next year in Central Park. It is limited. It's a U.S. Open, and the reason that we have to call it that, and that's all of the rest of those are called the U.S. Open as well. It's just like tennis and golf. You earn your right to be there because of what you've done in the past, and so it's an invitation only. You know, so we only can have 50 stalls. Central Park has grass in training. I had never heard this expression before. So you cannot walk or step on some place where there's grass in training. The dogs can run and do whatever they want to do on it, but we or a horse can't step on it. So it's very limited to just those 50 stalls in that area, and it's why we can have it there is that's because it's a dirt baseball field. So it's always going to be invitational only. It's never going to be a giant horse show. It wasn't designed to that, but it is a chance to raise our levels of our horses to be recognized worldwide at the same level that the Olympic horses are held. And this is probably the only opportunity we have in the world to do this, where people look at us and say, wow, these horses are the best of the best, and here they are. So hats off to everybody that came. What also happened is on the Pope came. And that was interesting also to deal with the Pope. But I never met him. I watched him on TV. But so anyway, we went on. But on Sunday morning, there's free to the anybody to come, and we did matinees. And the Pony Club actually came and had races over things. There was a demonstration of vaulters. So, but we were the breed that we were able to tell the story of the Arabian horse, and so that is taped. And also my notes are available. And what I would challenge you to do, this is not hard, you know about these horses, you know about their heritage, is maybe just take my notes as a refresher and do something similar in an area. I mean, people talk to me and say, oh, it's so hard to do public speaking or something. It's not, because these are the horses you truly love, and you really just talk about what's in front of you. So those are available. It was very well received in Central Park, and so it was a great deal of fun to do. So enough about Central Park, but do plan to join us next year. Thanks. And a personal thanks to everybody who came. It was great. Okay, improvements in our national shows. One of the things we started doing 3 years ago was to have surveys after the national shows, after the events, and to ask people, you know, what they thought of us, how we were doing, to rate us, to make it so that we could make some changes, some suggestions about what we could do better, look at the criticisms that we get, and really plan around that. So it's been very engaging. I'm part of, as the president, I'm on 30 commissions and committees. That said, But the point being is that I sit in on the commissions and their planning, and they listen to you. These are the people who, you get the survey because you were actually there and participated, so you have firsthand knowledge of what happens during those national shows and events, and so we take a look at those and use them to build. And so if you were any of our national shows and events this year, you saw a lot of changes. There were some classes that were added. There was the arena, for instance, in Canada was improved. Halter at U.S., thanks to my ad hoc committee and working with the U.S. National Show Commission and all the generous donations that were made. The pavilion was a wow factor when you walked in to see how the decorations had changed. That same committee also worked on changing the rules a bit so that we went from having everybody have a national champion to just the national champions at the end of the sessions. So I'm very proud of what's going on with our national shows. That continues. If for some reason you were there and you did not get a survey, it's because somehow you've blocked AHA's information coming out. It actually comes out under my name because we wanted people to understand that it was a little bit different than all of the rest of the e-blasts you get. But if you haven't been receiving things from AHA, please go on, and there's a button to push that says, I want to receive e-blasts. It's very important because if there are emergencies, that's how we can reach you. And getting information out, for instance, about VS this year, there were some people who said, well, I didn't really know what was going on. And I said, well, if you would read your e-blasts, we did everything possible to let people know. So encourage not only yourself, but all of your friends to make sure that they are getting those e-blasts. It's not hard to hit the delete button if you don't want to read everything, but the ones that come out that you need to be there and know about. Each commission is working very hard, and my hat's off. I hope you will, as you see the commissions, you will thank them in the hallways because they come in and they are there up to 2.5 weeks before shows start, depending on which show it is, and then they work really, truly from about 6 o'clock in the morning until as late sometimes as 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's an arduous task, and I wish that you would please thank them and acknowledge them as you see them in the hallways. Our National Distance Ride this year was a huge success. Eric, it was his personal ride, and he's been our chair of our commission for a number of years and invited everybody. So he had a lot of his own, what I would call followers, that come to his rides every year. I was able to be there for the end of the 50 and all of the 100-mile ride this year. There was a number of people that I met that were from the South, and Region 12 hugely supported it. So it was a great ride, very well run. The people that were there were happy with AHA. They were excited to be part of it. The ride next year will be in mid-September. It's like the third week in September, and it'll be here in the state of Oklahoma. I met the people who are going to host it next year, and they are very warm and welcoming, and we're excited to be there. And they came and rode in this ride so they would know what would be expected for the next ride. So as regional directors, again, I encourage you to get those rides in your area so people can get qualified and have their miles. This is a time that I get to say thanks to people. We at AHA right now have the very best staff we have ever had, ever. As I've been a member since 1971. And we have a group of staff right now that work together as a team and build together and communicate together. And their efficiency and professionalism that they bring to their job is just phenomenal. So again, I ask you, as you see some of these people, and we'll introduce them at a different time, that you thank them for their efforts on our behalf, because they really are working, and the change in the atmosphere is so much different. It's just amazing to me, and it's a pleasure to be able to work for them. Also, in this process of what we've done over the last year is we've completed the upgrades that we thought were absolutely mandatory to our building. That is our largest asset that we have, and if you've never been there, it's a 3-story building down south of downtown Denver in Aurora. It's close to 35 years old. And maintenance, just there wasn't the money at many times to do some maintenance, and so there was a system of rebates that were going to be available through our energy system, and so we decided that we would take advantage of those. We were at the point where Brad Short was climbing up on the roof with a pair of leather gloves on to re-trip the system to get the HVAC to work. I value Brad highly, and I didn't think this was an appropriate way to run a business. So thanks to a very tight budgeting process that we put into effect, we went back through and we now have a brand new HVAC, which sits on our roof. Well, in order to do the HVAC, you had to redo the roof. So we now have a new roof. In order to do the new roof, we had to put in new insulation. So we now have new insulation, which I think the minimum now for that is R21, and we're above that. So that's very good. So in order for the new HVAC to work, we had to put in new controls. So the new controls are now in, which means that you can actually control how cold or hot part of the building is. That's a big plus. And then the light went ahead and put in, as you know, the old fluorescent bulbs are fading out. And in order to, we looked at retrofitting what we had and then decided overall it was actually cheaper to put in brand new lighting. So in the office, throughout the whole building, we have the brand new lighting. So what has this done for us? Well, it's saved us about somewhere, 1 month we actually saved 43% in our utilities, but that's not going to happen that often. That was just kind of a freaky month. But we're running about 22% that we are saving in our utilities. And we also, so far this year, have saved $11,000 in maintenance. So it was money, I think, that was very well spent. It's our asset that we have going forward. There's still some things that need to be done. You can imagine on a 35-year-old building. So we will incorporate those as the money becomes available. But again, it made for a much better environment for our valued staff to come and participate. Okay. Oh, thanks. Sorry, I wasn't looking for applause. I was just looking for my place. One of the other things we looked at this year, started in budget and finance, and then we carried it forward from there, was to develop an investment policy group and to put together a policy. Currently, or previously, all of AHA's money has been invested just in bonds. Government completely secure. However, as you know, the government isn't paying very much. So our interest was almost negligible. I mean, it was ridiculous. And the fact that we have a lot of long-term investments. I mean, you look at the money that we have in sweepstakes, you look at the money that we have, for instance, in the Halter for Charities, there was a need to find a better way to invest some of our money. So I put together an investment committee, which was Bob Nash, Dave Corning, Dick Pope, Dan Stevenson, Brad Short, and myself. These are people that are actually in banking or in very large corporations in the United States. We looked at how other nonprofits that are about our size and larger were investing their money, came up with percentages. Ours are very conservative. I mean, if we looked at USEF, we looked at the American Horse Council, we looked at some of our sister organizations, at their percentage of what they have in the market and what they keep in what we would call static accounts. I'm proud to say that we not only created the policy, which was then approved by the board, but now we even enacted that and started that process. As you all know, if you put a little bit money in the stock market, we invested in ETFs. If you put money in, things fluctuate. And this isn't an idea that we're going to buy and sell on a daily basis. We went through Merrill Lynch. We've talked to the managers. They are our official manager for that. We receive reports from them. I mean, I have to laugh. We look at the report, and so far at the end of, this is November, so the end of October, we were up about $11,000 on our investment, and we were going, yay. And right now we're actually up even more than that, but one doesn't know. I mean, you don't cash those in until you need them, so we'll just keep an eye on that. But we've moved, it's going to be less than 25% of the investment will be in those kind of, everything else will stay in the bonds. So we've done that and gone forward with it, and I'm proud. Brad works very closely with Merrill Lynch, and will then in turn, he contacts through the EC and we go out to the board. But I think it was an investment that was well done for the future of AHA because we just couldn't stay not making anything off of our money. Okay, people, and I'm almost done, guys, but people ask me, what does AHA spend their money on? Why do we have to pay these fees? What are you guys doing with the money? Well, I've just told you, and actually I didn't tell you, but we spent almost $400,000 on the building. I have 47 staff that work for us. And so they have salaries, they have insurance, they have the things that staff needs, the maintenance on the building, obviously. We take care of our home. We also are responsible for the 3 registries and all the record keeping that is involved with that and the staff that it takes to do our registries. We maintain all of our horse records and our rider records and all of our program records. And so you can imagine how much work is done. And so, frankly, we spend your money very wisely. The Budget and Finance Committee is very dedicated. Glenn and his staff have worked really, really hard. We have cut literally thousands of dollars of fluff out of the budgets. We work very hard for that. So your money is well spent. Getting to the end, the connect, the collaborate, and the create. Last year, I talked a lot about connecting with each other and building Team AHA. And Team AHA to me is all of us, delegates, officers, the staff, all of our volunteers. If you look at any of our national events and literally the hundreds of people who volunteer their time to help us, we couldn't do it without them. So that's my team. And I ask you to join that team and to think about a couple of things I'll leave you with. Is getting dry. Integrity, as you do this on a team, is to always do the right thing. And that's what we're really trying to do in HA. Do the right thing for our horses, for our owners, for our breeders, for the people that love our beautiful horse. The collaboration, obviously, is to work as a team. We're building this team. We build a team every day. We bring new people on. It's important to get involved at some level, but collaboration is all about working as a team. Motivation, when you have motivation, it just makes it more exciting. It makes it more fun. It makes it so you want to get something done. So the level of motivation has to be kept high. People have to want to make a difference, and they have to want to be going forward. The performance results count. I mean, we have to look at what we do and say, what is the end result, and where are we going, how are we going to get there, and what are our results going to be? So you can look at it as rate of investment, your return on your investment. You can look at, if I give time, what have I done? Well, just volunteering to do a tail tour, you have touched people. You have introduced them to your horse. So everybody can be involved at some level. You can mentor somebody. You can have a discovery farm. Everybody needs to participate because we are looking at a very changing economy, a very changing demographic, where people can get to horses, how they can have access to horses. And so my desire is, and I really believe this, is we have the very best product, and so we need to be on the local level outreaching to people to let them know about Arabians before somebody else captures them. I'd like to close this with this, is that Team AHA at any level together, team means that we together everyone achieves more. So thank you. God bless.